Ever wonder how some financial services and fintech leaders learned about money when they were kids? Well, we've asked them 4 important questions to get their answers, and you definitely will want to hear them. Join me today as we hear from Autumn Knutson, CEO of Styled Wealth. Hey everyone, Mac Gardner here, author of Motivate Your Money and the global best-selling children's book, The 4 Money Bears. I am joined today by the one, the only, Autumn Knutson, CEO of Styled Wealth. Autumn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Mac. It's great to be in touch with you again.
So, Autumn, for the folks who don't know your background, the impact you're having on this industry and that you're having on your clients' lives, take a little bit of time and share your story with us, please.
Okay, yeah, sure. As Max said, I'm Autumn Knutson. I'm a former teacher and high school counselor. I came into this industry after my now husband and I hired a financial planner. She really inspired us, so much so that I took night courses for the CFP, ultimately became a CFP, and then became a resident where I was practicing the entire profession of financial planning under a more tenured CFP for a few years. Now I own my own firm and run the client relationships and help people navigate complex, confusing financial decisions, bringing them confidence and informed choices. I have a psych background, and so I lead very forward in my firm now with values and what people want for their wealthy life is what we call it. That is not just defined by investments, but rather values, taking care of themselves, their loved ones, and causes they care about.
That's awesome, Autumn. As you know, we have been working on this For Money Bears Berryville game. We're going to be launching it soon, and part of this process of working to create tools that will help enrich lives of young people and their families and all that good stuff is really the seed is really education. And I know you are an advocate of educating people and educating the big people, and then hopefully if you educate the big people well enough, they can educate the little people. So what we want to do with these interview series is really want to get to the core of maybe some of your early experiences. So are you ready for the first question that we have?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. What, Autumn, is your earliest memory of money education?
Yeah, I thought a lot about this because I have a few memories, core memories that stand out. Shout out to Inside Out. And the first one I remember is my father, who was big in the stock market when I was little, would always tell me, even if he had to go to the restroom, to watch the tickers, watch the numbers at the bottom of the news that would just be scrolling. And he would tell me to watch for the Q1. He was big on Qualcomm at the time, in the early 2000s, and tell him if it's green or red. And then we got to the point where I would tell him the numbers behind it. And I think about that because that I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't really know it was about money, but I knew that green was good and red was bad. And so now I look back and realize that that had something to do with how he was managing his finances and our family's finances.
All right, so your first sort of memory of it, interestingly enough, dealt with investing, right? Which is something that not a lot of young people get a chance to see. But what I like about that story is that your dad got you involved, and your dad was like, "Hey, you know what? You're going to want to know about this. In fact, you may be doing this for a living at some point in time in your life. So, why don't you watch this ticker and explain to me what's going on?" So, what did really? I like the communication. That sounds. Second question. What did money symbolize? What did money represent in your home as a child growing up on?
Yeah, I suppose that answer is different based on if you ask my mother, father, or myself. I was the only child in the home growing up, but I'll answer it from my perspective. We didn't talk about money much. As much as I just shared that my father involved me with that, that was just because it was time sensitive, and if he had been away from the TV at the moment, he might have missed it. So the information, to my understanding at the time, wasn't as accessible to him. But we didn't talk about money much. I remember my dad mentioning things like if he had a $100 bill, he would never want to break it, because once you break it, then you easily spend the money. So he had some things like that he shared. but money, I now know that my father gambled a lot, and he was very risk prone, and we went to the horse races a lot growing up, and all I knew was I rode ponies. So we just didn't talk about it. I was very ignorant to honestly what it meant. We did have our needs met, and all I knew was my own norm. But I didn't know anything growing up, whether things were good or bad, or if the market was up or down. Possibly it was related to my father's moods, but I was too young to ever know if that was the reason.
Interesting. Yeah, because usually when we do these interviews and you ask those questions and you find out there's a correlation between, what it represents and then how you view money and then how you interact with money. Is it a scarcity mindset? Is it an abundance mindset? Is it something where, money symbolizes either status or, I've actually asked a question and the folks said it represented anxiety in their homes a lot of times. So it's just always interesting to hear what money represents in certain households and then how that impacts you down the road, which leads to question number 3. You, Autumn, I know you are a parent, 2 lovely little ones. I'm a parent. I have 3 lovely little ones. 2 of them are slowly becoming big ones. But how do you think we should teach young people about money?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this now because I get to see how so many people relate to money, like you just said, around what it means to them. I love the idea of helping people be mindful of their money. I mentioned being values focused in our firm, and I mean that with sincerity, in that money for a lot of people means something. It represents something. It's a through line to access, to values, to control, to power, to autonomy, to worth sometimes. And so I try to help people be mindful of what the purpose of money is, and ideally what it's not, as in worthiness. But it's understandable we relate it to that. How it's related to words of enough, though. How much is enough for the goals you have for yourself, for your family, for what's important to you, and having a concrete number around what that could look like with reasonable assumptions of things the financial planner can help with, and that's inflation and the cost of things changing over time. But really, what do we want? There's a book called The Opposite of Spoiled by Ron Lieber, and he talks about spend, save, and give, and that format has really resonated with me as well on teaching kids how to be mindful with what they care about for helping themselves, those they care about, and then also causes that they want to support as well.
Yeah, that's profound stuff right there. Thanks for sharing those books. I'm always interested in finding good books that have good perspectives on stuff. I think one of the things that we're trying to do with the 4 Money Bears and with the app and the game that we're developing and going to be launching soon is making young people aware that they have options, right? Hey, look, when money comes into your life, it's not just going to spend it, it's not just throw it in a piggy bank, but those 2 other factors that you mentioned, which are investing and giving, and why they are so important in their overall life development and their overall relationship with money. Because once young people realize that they actually have 4 options and not just 2, it allows them to, have a better, not just relationship, but a better rationalization of what to do with this money. And hopefully, if mom and dad are good guides as well, and maybe they're reading the book or playing the game with their kiddos, they'll see some of these cool opportunities to learn about it. And again, just have a good relationship and have some good healthy habits. All right, ready for question number 4?
Yes.
All right. Autumn, you are in the profession. You are a certified financial planner. What's the best advice you've ever been given when it comes to money?
Yeah, that one is always hard to think through in terms of that. I would say that the founding principle, at least that I'm trying to live into right now, is what is your wealthy life? What are your goals? And what is enough? Mm-hmm. And when we have enough for the needs that we have, they can be Maslow's hierarchy, they can be making sure our family's taken care of, they can be having a certain standard of life, they can be impact in the world and wanting to see X happen because of your resources, whether it be time, talent, or treasure impacting it. When we define what that is, what is enough? And then beyond that, vision setting for if we have more resources of any of those T's, how are we going to leverage that then? Because sometimes I'll see people, they have more time later in life, perhaps in retirement, or they might have more resources or treasure on than they had anticipated. How are we going to leverage that? So best money advice I've received is just being clear on what matters to you, knowing that that can change over time, and then defining how, specifically in the context of money, how are you going to leverage your resources over time, probably in a non-linear way of what you can put towards making your life and impact what you want it to be.
Autumn, thank you so much for everything that you've been sharing, contributing for this interview. You will continue to do great things. You have been doing great things, not just for your clients, but for our industry. And our industry, I like to say, needs more women. It needs more diverse representation. And you have been representing that for so many. So I want to thank you for that. Keep an eye out, keep an ear out. The game's going to be dropping soon. And again, thank you so much for your time. And as I like to say, the journey continues.
The journey continues. Thanks, Mac.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you'll join us for our next engaging episode. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and visit www.the4moneybears.com.